Hello everyone, welcome back to my video series talking about classic WoW talent trees for PvP. This is part 2 out of 3 for the Warlock, because Warlock can PvP very effectively as all 3 specs, whether it's Destruction, Demonology, or Affliction. The first video we went over Destruction Warlock, and in this video we're going over Demonology Warlocks. Similarly to the previous video, there's 2 main ways you can go about speccing your Demonology Warlock. You can, obviously we're getting Soul Link, but then you can use the rest of your points either for Nightfall, or you can go down to Shadowburn. And I'm going to talk about the pros and cons between the two, and kind of my feelings on the matter. Overall, Demonology is the tanky, high survivability spec for Warlock, whereas Destruction is the glass cannon, big burst, big damage spec, and Affliction is kind of a hybrid between Demonology and Destruction, where it's more tanky and survivable than Destruction, and more damage in Demonology, but not super amazing in either of those categories. But with that said, we're going over the Demonology Warlock today. So let's just get started. So first I'm going to go over the Soul Link Nightfall build. Unfortunately, in Classic WoW, we're 1 talent point short of the infamous SL Warlock, Siphon Life and Soul Link. But you'll see plenty of that in TBC. But let's just get into it. Just starting off with the Demonology tree, you definitely want Demonic Embrace. Increases your stamina by 15%. Just makes you tankier. It's very good. Similar to that, Improve Healthstone. Turns your Healthstone from a 1200 heal up to a 1440 heal. It's a pretty good talent to have for 2 points. Next row, we definitely want Improve Voidwalker. This increases the shield that you get from Sacrifice by 30%, making it it's a really strong shield. This is an awesome talent. Moving down, Fell Domination, 15-minute cooldown, but when paired with Master Summoner, this gives you a half-second pet summon cast. So what you see a lot of Soul Link Warlocks do is they're running with Voidwalker. When they get into a pinch, they sacrifice it, then Fell Dom another pet right away. It's a very good talent. Unfortunate that it's 15-minute cooldown, but it is what it is. Master Summoner is really what we want next, but we need to spend a few more points to get down there. So none of these that we haven't taken are super amazing, but I would go 4 into Fell Stamina. It just increases the health of your pets. Pretty okay talent. It's good, not amazing, but it's good. Next we get Master Summoner. This is a really nice talent, reducing the cast time of all your summons by 4 seconds and the mana cost by 40%. Like I said before, when you pop your Feldon with this talent, it makes it half-second cast as opposed to what used to be a 10-second cast. Next we get Unholy Power. Not an amazing talent. You're not really using your pets for their melee damage, but we have to max it out in order to get Master Demonologist, which is an amazing talent. Similar to Unholy Power, we're taking Demonic Sacrifice just because we want Soul Link. You're not sacrificing your pet in this spec very often. There's maybe some very niche situations, but usually you want a pet out because of Soul Link. Moving forward, we do need 2 more points in order to move down. So I would put 1 more in Fell Stamina, and then this other point is kind of, you put wherever you feel like. You can get Fell Intellect, but your pets don't really go Improved Imp, you're not really using Imp. Health Funnel's okay, but not super amazing. Succubus, increasing the damage and the seduction duration is pretty nice. It's okay. This is where we're going to put the point. You're not using Succubus all that often as Soul Link Warlock, but there are times, and the improved seduction is okay. More often than not, if you're seducing a target, the 10 seconds by default is enough, but we need to spend a point. We're gonna put it here. Next, Master Demonologist. This is probably the second best talent in this tree next to Soul Link. Depending on what pet you have, it gives you different effects. So Voidwalker, reducing the physical damage you take by 10% is really nice. Succubus, increasing your damage by 10% is nice. And Fell Hunter, giving you 60 all resistance is pretty good as well at level 60. So this is one of the big reasons you always want to pet out. And then the big talent, Soul Link. This reduces the damage you take by 30% by transferring it to your demon, and gives you 3% more damage all around. This is a very, very good talent. This is why you go Demonology, really, Soul Link. But then moving forward, we're going to start down Affliction. So Improve Corruption makes it instant cast. This, every Warlock takes this. I can't think of a spec that doesn't. Improved Light Tap is very nice, helping with that mana sustainability. And then we have to spend 3 more points to continue moving forward. You could go Drain Life, because you are draining a fair amount in this spec, but the minuscule 2% per point on your Drain Life, I don't see a whole lot of value in it. I typically just put 3 points in Suppression, even though you still want to gear for hit, because this is just for your Affliction spells. For people who are like stacking Shadow Resistance and stuff, I find more value in this than anything else. I'm moving down. Amplify Curse is a very nice talent. We don't get Curse of Exhaustion with this spec, so it really just applies to your Curse of Agony, but on a 3-minute cooldown, increasing the effectiveness of that Curse of Agony by 50% is very nice. And then we definitely want Fell Concentration. With this spec, you're dotting and draining a lot. That's really the playstyle. So reducing the interruption by 70% is very valuable. And then the big talents for Affliction here is Grim Reach, increasing your range by 20%, and Nightfall. That gives you the instant Shadow Bolts. Unfortunately for the spec, we have Nightfall, but we don't have improved Shadow Bolts, so we kind of miss out on that, but still Nightfall is very good. You're corruptioning targets a lot, you're draining a lot, you're going to get a pretty good amount of Nightfall procs, and that's just instant Shadow Bolts. Because without this, you really don't have any burst in this spec. You're really kind of relying on those Nightfalls for the big damage, because we don't even have Shadow Burn. But that's pretty much the talents for this spec. There's not really any wiggle room other than you could take points out of here and go into Improved Drain Life, and you could get less points in Fell Stamina, go for better Succubus, but other than that, it's pretty cut and dry as far as the Soul Link Nightfall build. But then let's go over the Soul Link build where you're going for Shadow Burn. So I'm just going to start with the basic Demonology talents here. So this is what we had before in Demonology. And then we have 20 points, 11 of which need to be in Destro to get Shadow Burn. So we're going to go Improve Shadow Bolt. This is much more valuable than Cataclysm. On your Shadow Bolt crits, you increase the damage of your next 4 Shadow non-dot abilities by 20%, being either another Shadow Bolt, a Shadow Burn, or Death Coil. So it's pretty good talent. Bane, you definitely want this. You're going to have a really hard time casting Shadow Bolts without this talent. And Immolates as well. You're not using Soulfire a whole lot, but if you have a target seduced, I mean, you might as well wind up the Soulfire. But this is a mandatory talent if you're going down to Shadow Burn. And then we get the Shadow Burn. So that's a 15-second cooldown, instant cast, big shadow damage. Nothing not to like about it. It's good. And then, like I alluded to before, every Warlock ever takes Improved Corruption. Instant cast Corruption is mandatory for the spec. And then Improved Life Tap is also very nice, helping with that sustainability. And then we have 2 talent points left. And You could go for a few things. You could go for suppression. You could go for improved drain life. You could get like 2 out of 5 aftermath, but the 4% chance I don't really find super valuable, and you're not casting a whole lot of destruction spells with this spec. It's really just Shadow Bolt and Shadow Burn. So what I would go for is improved Spellstone. As a Warlock in PvP, you typically want to be using a one-hander and an offhand because there's so many good offhands in this game, Spellstone being one of them. I find myself cycling between my Spellstone, my Furbog Medicine Pouch, Skull of Impending Doom, and just a regular AV offhand for damage. So 30% increased effectiveness on that Spellstone is pretty nice. Spellstone's very good. Not a lot of Warlocks really use it, but they should. But that's really this spec right here. There's not a lot of wiggle room. You really just have like before this Succubus or Fell Stamina, you kind of mess around with that. But everything else is pretty set in stone with this spec. So which one is better? I've played them both. It's really just, what do you value more? The Fell Concentration and Nightfall, or getting Shadowburn? It sucks that you can't have both, but that's if you want both, you play Affliction Warlock. So they're equally as tanky. I would say this spec is probably a little more tanky because your drain life is just way easier to pull off. If you're playing this Shadowburn spec, you do find it difficult to drain life without any points in Fell Concentration. So it's a little bit of a different playstyle. You're casting more Shadow Bolts and Shadow Burns, kind of playing into this, as opposed to the Nightfall spec. You're relying more on Corruption and Fell Concentration with the Drain Life in order to get those Nightfall procs for your damage. So I've played them both. I think I do prefer the Nightfall build a little bit more, but when I'm playing it, I'm like, man, I wish I had Shadowburn. But I recommend you give them both a shot. I would say the Nightfall one seems to be more popular, just from looking at random Warlocks out in the world. But this spec is really nice as well, getting that Shadowburn. Overall, like I said before, Demonology is really the high survivability, tanky Warlock. Not a lot of burst, but you can get some burst. But yeah, thank you for watching the video, and stay tuned for the next one where I go over Affliction Warlock, another really fun PvP spec.